Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Powered by Music, hosted by the China Doll Podcast. We are joined by an incredibly special guest. Her name is Lily Krisel, and she is a lot of things. Oh my gosh, she's a student, she's a singer, she's just an absolute badass. So we're definitely glad to have you on board, Lily. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, guys. So how me and Lily met? So we were in high school. We went to a high school called Cypress Falls in Houston, Texas, and we just so happened to, kind of mingle our way with, our, friendship and getting to know each other, amongst mutual friends, and I think we also like rode the bus together, which is cool.
I mean, that's the
Um,
memory I have, the
yeah.
biggest memory.
Yes, yes. And so yeah, how everything came about with us getting, back together in sorts with the business side of music. I reached out to her, just to kind of check in and see how she was doing. And through our conversation, she had expressed that she wanted to be involved in music, wanted to be involved as a singer. And so, yeah, I decided to reach out to her for a particular project that I was doing this January called The Night Before. And it went incredibly awesome, Lily. I appreciate you doing that with me.
Thank you so much for having me on it. It was
Yeah.
so much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so much fun.
Awesome. Well, Lily, yeah, just to, kick things off, when did you first, I guess, like begin your journey with music?
I was 5 years old and I joined the choir in elementary school and it kind of just took off.
Mm,
I would perform and I started doing some Broadway stuff as a kid,
mm.
kind of doing the little bit of child actor stuff in school. And then continued on to middle school, continued on to high school, kept performing, kept singing. I also joined dance and I would try out for magnet programs.
Ooh,
And then I finally auditioned many times, got in. I would perform regionally and state. And so at that point, we were doing like classically trained pieces.
okay.
So I was definitely doing the opera classical music, which was conflicting because it wasn't really the genre that I loved.
Okay.
And then I just was like, I want to be a singer. Like, I love this so much. Did
Mm.
some sight reading, learned how to read music. And that was just fascinating for me.
What's your like favorite like go-to genre to listen to music wise?
Definitely pop and R&B.
Nice. Nice. Who would you say is like a go-to artist that you listen to?
I'm obsessed with JoJo.
Okay, okay.
And like, if you're a millennial, JoJo's the one that had the Leave Get Out song that we
Yep.
all used to like listen to. And she had this like huge battle with Sony when she got
Mm,
signed. But yeah.
yeah. Interesting. I love it. I love it. I mean, on that topic of singing, what is magnet programs, if you don't mind me asking? What
hmm
what what is that?
Yeah. So we had a couple. I was raised in Miami. I moved
Hmm.
to Texas around the time I met you and I was 17. And in Miami, we had some schools that had magnet programs where it was kind of like the elevated or the next level
Hmm.
performer. So we're talking, the singer that can sight read, that plays the piano, that is classically trained, and so you would have to audition to be
Mm,
part of that group. And those were the groups that would be performing at symphonies, at the orchestra, right? Like
mm,
with the kind of like the performers that we see here in Houston with like the Houston Orchestra and stuff like that. They
gotcha.
do, I think they do like a lot of a lot of like the seasonal performances and they sell out.
Hmm.
But essentially it's a program where you have to audition to get in. You get a lot of opportunities to perform for the city.
Mm,
And then they have them at different schools. So sometimes you'll have to leave your current school and go to a different school. And sometimes it's in your own school where they'll have like a
right.
magnet program group. And you get to work with really great composers and artists. They'll literally come in and they'll give you
Wow.
like workshop classes and you get to pick up all these like different styles of singing. And that's
Ooh,
kind of how I did a little bit of the Broadway stuff because
that's cool.
they needed a group of like I think five girls for like Annie or something. And so
Wow.
you'd perform and you'd go and you'd do the set. So yeah.
Yeah. You said Annie. Like, what other like iconic, theatrical performances did you do?
We did a lot of Disney stuff. Oh my
Okay.
God, we did so many Disney Broadways. We did Annie. I think we had done like Cats when but that was very interesting because it
Wow.
was more like lyrical movement.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, the Disney one was huge because Disney has so many pieces, right? Like we
Hmm.
have so many, I guess, famous movies, and so we couldn't do them all, but they would take the entire, I guess, Disney composure and they would break it down. And so every
Wow.
year we would do like a set of like 30 minutes.
Okay.
And so just seeing how many songs they had and seeing
Mm-hmm.
all of the Broadway examples that they would show us, it was just beautiful.
Did you have like a lot of supporting parts, or were you one of like the lead singers?
Oh, and and now that you say that, so
Yeah.
we did Little Mermaid,
Oh
which was
wow.
really fun, and I got the part for when Ariel's doing I think she's like underwater and she's talking about all the humans that walk and that little part, and that was really really fun
Ah.
because I had to audition for that, and so I
Wow.
actually got that part. I remember that was in high school, and I didn't think I was gonna get it, and I was like, oh, it was a little bit of a higher pitched song or solo, and I was
Right.
nervous, but yeah, I got the song. It
That's
was
so wicked.
yeah, so that was one of the main ones. I had a lot of fun with that. I
Mm.
actually did a right before I left Miami, I'm a huge Britney Spears fan, and I did they're like, "Okay, you get to do whatever you want." And I was
Right.
like, "I'm gonna do Britney." And they're like, "No, you're classically I'm gonna do Britney."
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care. I do all this classical music for you guys. I like kill myself in the trials. This is my moment. They're like,
Yeah.
"Fine." Because again, like the genre, the classical music was great, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do,
Mm.
So
Mm-mm. What did you really want to do?
I wanted to do more R&B pop music.
Mm.
I even at that age, I just saw so much beauty in it. I
Mm.
saw there was more room to do, I think with R&B, you can combine dance with it a lot more
Yeah.
or with like pop music. I just feel like the expression piece is greater for me.
Mm.
Classical music was very depressing in the
Mm.
sense of like I would read some of the lyrics, right? Like one of them was like in Italian and I know Spanish, so I would understand what it was saying. And it was saying something like, "No, no, mom, I don't want to get married. He's taking me away." And I was like, "This is so sad. Like I am a sophomore in high school. Like I don't want to sing this."
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So I would listen to pop music and like yeah, it could be a little sad, but some of them were so upbeat and like
Right.
empowering. So it just aligned more with my personality.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. What's like the first song that you officially sang on? Like what is like that first song that you did? I would say like to that extent, what was that first song
Um,
that you did?
One song that is memorable
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah. Memorable.
"It's My Journey,"
Okay.
and that is a song that I did when I was like in third grade, but we performed it for the mayor of Miami at the time,
Whoa.
which was Alex Pinella, and that was actually a difficult song for me because there were pieces that were so I'm a second soprano,
Okay.
and so this was mostly like a soprano song, and I remember like learning how to breathe to really hit my notes, and
Mm.
so I was already nervous, and then like performing for the mayor, I was like, oh my god, don't mess this up. And
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
third grade, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
It was just I think that will forever be memorable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was very curious on that. So,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, like was there a lot of people there?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had the newspaper there.
Oh my gosh.
The entire like his entire staff was there. It was like on the news.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, this is a lot of pressure.
How old were you?
So I was in third grade. I don't know
Oh my
what age. I'd
gosh.
have to do the math, but I
That's
think
crazy.
it's definitely like I don't know, maybe 9. I'm guessing.
That's intense.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we got picked. It's one of those things where like you had to
Oh,
audition and only like 15 or 20 of the best.
that's cool.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But I didn't think,
Yeah,
you know.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So Nilly, our Lily, our single the night before.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how was that experience? We touched on it a little bit before, but overall, how did you feel about that?
That was such a beautiful song,
Mm.
and I think I didn't expect to resonate with it as much as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you kind of heard some of that whenever some of that like spooky like
Yep.
tones would come out.
Yep.
So for me, one of the reasons it was so impactful is because the story behind the song,
Mm.
with the astronaut going into outer space, I have a very strong connection with galactic,
Mm-hmm.
with aliens, with everything outside of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really loved the theme. And I do think that the tones in the song aligned perfectly with that. It was just very like esoteric and like just like in space and ungrounded and
Yeah,
fair, and it was just gorgeous.
that's
So
awesome.
it was a really good experience.
That's fun. That's
Mhm.
fun. Yeah, we had the pleasure of recording everything at Baron Studios, which is here in Houston, Texas.
Mhm.
We recorded it locally, um, which was definitely a new experience for the both of us, just because with me recording with a vocalist, I had never done that before in an actual studio, and
Really? I
yeah,
had
and
no
that
idea.
was
That's awesome.
yeah, and that was it was definitely one of those things where it was an experience. It was a learning type of vibe, and yeah, it was awesome. So, and also, with this us compiling everything like on the spot, while you were there, like that was just a really cool new experience. And so, and I think that from what you had told me before, it was like one of your first professional recordings.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a new experience.
Hmm.
I think you're right. Getting to see how the song was put together and
Yeah.
edited was so freaking cool.
Mm,
And I had an idea. Like one of the things that I would do a lot growing up is I would watch a lot of like making the music video shows and stuff like that
yeah.
because I was just so fascinated, and it is like that. It is, for all of you that don't know, it is so much work.
Hmm.
Takes a lot of energy from the engineer side, from your side, even from the vocalist side, but it is a team
Yeah.
effort for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely couldn't have done it without you. And, I have to give you the highest value and respect for what you did on that track. I mean, it was incredible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we got a lot of great feedback from a lot of people,
Mhm.
all over the world, a lot of playlist placements. I mean, we got, I think, on over 30, which was insane.
Yeah.
Coming close to 10,000 streams on Spotify, like
Mm,
it's going amazing. So I definitely got to give you props on that. You did
thanks.
excellent.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. On that note, since the style of music that we did record with the night before was highly ambient and meditative, do you listen to ambient and meditative music on a regular basis?
Yeah, absolutely. Meditation is a daily practice for me,
Hmm.
and that is another aspect of this entire process that I loved
Mm,
because it was like having listened to it and then it bringing me back to that very sacred, calm space of meditation.
mhm,
And meditation is something that has saved my life. It's
mm,
something that I started in 2016
mhm.
that has now become a daily practice. And so, again, it really just aligns with my values. And I find myself listening to that type of music when I'm driving.
Mm.
So, a lot of your songs, they're on my playlist. Like, I'll just listen to
Nice.
them, especially if I'm having a stressful day or if
Mm.
I'm caught in traffic and I can just feel my system kind of altering.
Yes, yes.
I'm like, oh, it's time to turn off the poppy music or the EDM. It's time to put on something that's going to ground me,
Right.
and I'll just go straight to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely can relate to that because when you're in traffic or you're in a frustrating moment,
And you're
like
tired.
yeah, and you're tired and you're exhausted and you just want to get to work, you just want to get home or something like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, you definitely feel that tension rise, and meditative music is always just kind of like a way to
Hmm.
tone that down a little bit. So definitely reflect with that. With your meditation, what do you do? Like what's kind of like your what's your habit around that? What is kind of like your regimen around that?
So daily is
Hmm.
really important. I don't really care if it's 5 minutes or 15 minutes. I'm going to meditate. I'm going
Mm,
to ground myself because I find that even 5 minutes is impactful. It
mm,
doesn't sound like it is, but we just have a habit as humans of being on the go and not knowing what it's like to sit with ourselves.
mhm.
So when you take the time and those 5 minutes are going to feel like 5 hours, it's
Sure.
going to take a really long time, right?
Mhm.
Um, there's a weekly meditation group that I attend. I go to a meditation every Sunday,
Mhm.
sound bowl meditation.
You've told me about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're always invited. It's
thank you.
it's wonderful. It's here in Houston. It's free,
Mm,
donation based. And so when I started meditating, I was drawn to silent meditation,
mm,
which uh, it's still my favorite. It's still the easiest for me, but I'm also highly sensitive. So I think that's why I have a bias towards the silent one. And so I try to do it in the morning. So I'll get up, I allow myself at least 40 minutes for stretching and meditation. And so I'll literally get up and sometimes I'll stretch first. Sometimes I will meditate first and I will just sit there. And I do silent ones in the mornings
Mm.
and I'll see the thoughts, they'll come in and I'll just be like, okay, well, I'll deal with you later. And I come right back to my breath. And it just really recharges me for the day and
Man,
it keeps me calm. And by the time I get to the office, I am not amped up.
wow.
I'm calm. I have my boundaries in place. I can say no. I remember what's important to me, what my values are, because a lot of the times the reason we're stressed is we forget our values.
Mm.
So meditation, and I'll give an example of this. So a couple of weeks ago, I meditated. I knew I didn't feel right when I woke up. Like, I'm tired. I was like, I just didn't get enough sleep. I did my meditation, and instantly, within 10 minutes of being in the meditative state, I realized my body was exhausted.
Mm.
And I realized I was getting a migraine.
Mm.
And when I got out of the meditation, I could feel the migraine coming. And I was like, oh my God. So if I had not slowed down and I had just pushed through my morning, I would have gotten to work and I would have gotten that migraine.
Right.
And with me, I get the ocular migraines, the ones that affect my vision.
Ooh. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I ended up just saying, hey, like I called work and I was like, I'm not feeling well. And I stayed home. And sure enough, I got the ocular migraine. So
Wow.
meditation allowed me to slow down and really listen to my body
Mm.
and realize that I had needs.
Yeah.
I had to take a break.
Man, it's interesting that you wake up and go to that because with me, it's like I have to have my coffee. I have to feed the cats
I
because
get
they're
it.
just like
Yeah.
going crazy at like
Yeah.
6 in the morning. And so, gosh, I wish I had like 40 minutes to, get up. I might just need to like shut the door behind him or something
But
and
I
just be
will
like,
say I've had to change my morning routine to make that happen.
gotcha.
So, one of the things that I have a cat as well, and if I don't feed him enough the night before, like if I don't free feed him,
Mhm.
he would drive me crazy, right?
Yeah.
We know that as cat parents.
Yes.
So I put more food at night so that there's still food left in the morning, right?
Mm.
So he's not going to bother me. And even when I'm meditating, he'll definitely like crawl on me and stuff.
Okay.
But it's one of those, if I ignore him, he'll eventually stop or he'll just lay on my lap. But you just have to make time for it. It has to be a priority. I have to get up 45 minutes earlier,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means I have to go to bed 45 minutes earlier, but it's so important for my self-care.
Yeah. The way that I normally meditate, I try to do it daily, but just with having a busy schedule, it's sometimes hard to fit in.
Yeah.
But shower
You
meditation,
told me about that.
oh man,
I've
it's
never tried that.
oh gosh, you just sit in the shower and you just put the heat on full blast and then you rinse it off with a cold shower
Ooh,
for like I try to finish it off with cold for at least 30 seconds. And oh my gosh, like it's insane. It's
that
incredible.
sounds intense.
It's awesome. It's
Is it
awesome.
like
Mhm.
cold shower? Is it that does the body react the same? You know how they say like if you do the
Yeah.
cold showers, it relaxes your nervous system.
I feel that when I start with the hot water, like if
Mhm.
I go straight to cold, my body's freaking out. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, what is this?
Yeah.
But if I do a really steamy hot, like, and I usually do the meditation during the hot session.
Okay.
So I'll do about maybe 15 to 20 minutes hot and then about, 30 seconds to even sometimes 5 minutes cold.
Okay.
Um, and I I find that once I've entered the cold phase, my body is calm enough to take it and withstand it
Wow.
without getting into like an epileptic shock or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like, oh my gosh, you ease into it.
Mhm.
And I find that to be very exhilarating and very refreshing. And yeah, it's always been a vibe.
Do you
Like
feel more energized?
I would say so. I mean, I definitely feel a lot clearer, calmer. Um Energized. I sometimes feel energized, but then I sometimes wanna take, like, a long nap afterwards.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But,
Depends.
yeah, it's a good time, though.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
You're a very big advocate on healing.
Mhm.
Um, meditation is very strong for you.
Yeah.
Spiritual healing is very strong for you. Um, Tell me about your journey. You're currently going to school
Mhm.
for your master's in mental health. Tell me a little bit about, what kind of led you up to this point and um all that kind of good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. So in 2016, I had a very traumatic event happen. I went through a terrible breakup. I was drinking heavily. I was partying a lot.
Hmm.
And it kind of brought me to a state of shock.
Hmm.
And I remember just having to decide, this is a crossroads. Are you going to continue to live your life this way? Because I knew I wasn't making the choices that I needed to make to have different results. I knew I wasn't choosing the friends and partners that I deserve to have.
Hmm.
Or am I going to do things differently to have a different result, right?
Hmm.
So I started meditating. And when I started meditating, I started to have a different sense open up.
Hmm.
And so I started to feel more. I became more sensitive. I started to hear into what people would call dimensions, which is definitely woo woo, but it is really real.
Hmm.
And I found peace and relief through meditation and through connecting with myself.
Hmm.
And I started to realize that a lot of what was happening in my life was my own doing.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of that was due from abuse that I experienced as a child. I had a lot of stuff I had to clear and take care of,
Hmm.
but it was my responsibility to heal. It was my responsibility to change what I was doing, change my perspective, maybe get some help, and then have different results in my life and improve the quality of my life.
Hmm.
And so I just began this massive spiritual journey where I had to be accountable for what I wanted and what I was doing, and mostly the partners that I was choosing, because my relationships had always been, my friendships and my romantic relationships were the hardest part of my life, which would make sense because I don't have a great relationship with my mom.
Hmm.
And so we tend to model or copy the relationship that we had with our caregivers, with our partners and our friendships.
Hmm.
And so all of that I kind of learned. So I knew when I was like 11 and I was struggling, living in an abusive home and going to see a psychologist, I kind of knew I wanted to be a psychologist or something when I got older. But funny enough, I was married when I was 21, and my husband at the time was like, "Oh, I don't." It's like I think I want to be a psychologist, and he's like, "That's far fetched." Like he legit told me that,
Wow.
and I just dropped it. I was like, "Yeah, he's probably right. Like I can't, I can't do that." And then fast forward past that spiritual awakening and past everything that happened when I was like 30, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go for it.
Hmm.
Like I am in love with mental health. I want to see people heal. I think there's so much, after doing so much healing myself, I saw the power of doing the work. I saw the power of reflecting. I had also worked with psychedelics at that time, and
Hmm.
that opened me up even more. And so here in the US, the American Psychiatry Association is using psychedelics to treat trauma, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And they're seeing remarkable results. And so as soon as I found out about that, having my own experiences with DMT, I was like, I want to do something. I want to do research.
Hmm.
So I decided to go back to school. And I know it's very non-traditional, but I'm a non-traditional gal. So
Yes.
I'm so excited. I'm here for it.
I love it. With the psychedelics that you touched on, what is the range of that? What kind of psychedelics are you talking about?
So the psychedelic that I worked with that started my journey was ayahuasca, which is DMT.
Okay.
The psychedelics that they are using in the U.S. is psilocybin, acid or LSD, and DMT as well,
Hmm.
and in certain situations. There are other psychedelics that are used that are not as popular,
Hmm.
but I think it's because we don't have enough research, right?
Hmm.
And there are other, we call these plant medicines. There are other medicines that we can use that are not going to trip us out, like cacao. Cacao is like the chocolate, but it elevates your mood. It helps you wean yourself off of coffee. It gives you more patience. It opens your heart chakra.
Mm.
Um, and, cacao is something that you can just get shipped from Guatemala or from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think psilocybin is one of the main ones and one that is very powerful. I think
Mm.
I think there's a huge future with psilocybin.
Interesting.
DMT is a little stronger in my opinion, and you have to have the right support system. It has to be done in a controlled environment to ensure that
Sure.
you get something out of it.
With DMT, how long do those effects last for in a session?
It depends
Hmm.
because there's some DMT that lasts like 30 minutes, and then there's DMT that is combined with it's a root and a vine, which is ayahuasca, and that one can range for 4 to 6 hours. So it just depends on the type of medicine that you're working with.
Sure.
Um, and it also depends on where you're sourcing it from, like where you're getting it. So
Mm.
so that's kind of where I'm passionate about. Psychedelics work, but you have to be responsible.
Hmm.
Psychedelics work, but you have to have supporting professionals or a support system,
Right. Right.
because it's going to essentially open up all of your trauma, bring it to the surface so you can see it Now
Mhm.
you have awareness, now you can deal with it. So it's hard work,
Mhm.
but if you're dealing with PTSD or depression, life is already hard for you.
Sure.
You're already struggling.
Mhm.
You're probably looking at suicide. So it's like a
Mm.
lot of people get very desperate and they go to it and they find relief.
With these sessions that happens with these certain psychedelics, I mean, is it something that, like, naturally conversation is gonna come up about the trauma that's going on in their life, or is there, like, an exchange of questions and conversations that have to be brought up in order for the medicine, I guess, to work in a certain way?
That is such a great question.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting question and
Mm.
I love it.
Mm.
No, the medicine does it all on its own.
Wow.
And everybody has a different experience.
Mm.
So I have seen people going to a ceremony that have nothing going on. That in itself is their medicine.
Mm.
And I have seen people, I have had an experience like this where they are shaking and convulsing.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, they're losing their mind, but that is what they need. They're probably processing things that have happened to them that their memory has blocked out, and they have to see it, face it, and then work through it to
Sure.
release some of that toxicity that's in their body.
Yeah.
And then to understand, right, why we have the patterns that we have. So what's really cool is with Aya, she will talk to you. And
Mm.
I can't say this is the same for everybody, but I definitely heard her. And she will, like, I remember asking her a question, she would answer me.
Mm.
And
Aya, who is that?
ayahuasca,
Okay,
it's the
yeah.
DMT.
Gotcha.
So they call her the grandmother.
Okay.
The energy. So and this is really important, every single psychedelic comes from a plant. Well, they all come from a plant and they all have a consciousness.
Mm.
The consciousness is essentially, think of our soul.
Mhm.
It's an energy that is alive and that
Mm.
communicates with you and that can discern what it is that you need. So whenever you work with a psychedelic, it is always with you, that energy.
Wow.
There are times that I'm sober and I can feel her coming in. Same with mushrooms. There are times that I'm sober and I can feel the mushrooms,
Like, even, like, times later? Oh,
even
wow.
years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's a consciousness that's with you that is always teaching you. And in shamanism, they teach us that whatever you learn in a session or whatever it is that you're receiving, even if it's not something that you know right away, you can get information about that 10, 15, 20 years later.
Oh my
So you can
gosh.
look back and be like, oh crap, that's what that meant.
Mm.
Oh my God, that's why that happened. Like, oh, I saw a pink dog. And then 20 years later, oh my God, that pink dog, this is why. It's just really crazy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, they're just very funky and like fun. Yeah.
Um, you have a business,
Mhm.
Leo Rising Integration. Tell me about that.
Leo Rising Integration is a practice that serves people who are interested in therapy
Mhm.
or integration for psychedelics from the standpoint of spirituality and science. So, really catering to people who want a holistic approach
Mhm.
while also being grounded with some effective evidence based research, right? So, I
Gotcha.
believe that when we blend science and spirituality, we have the best case scenario for healing
Mhm.
because we are humans and we have a body, a mind, and a soul, but we also can't just meditate our problems away.
Sure.
And that's why and I think science has its place. And for me, the spiritual community is really special to me because I'm extremely spiritual. You'll find me dancing by a fire under the moon, howling, no problem.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think that the spiritual community doesn't have enough of a scientific grounded approach to deal with their things. There's a lot of spiritual bypassing. And the other side, the scientific community lacks the connection to self and the connection to the esoteric,
Mm.
the soul, nature.
Mhm. Interesting. Interesting. What's the next step in your career, not only with mental health, but, just where do you see yourself going with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I want to continue doing sessions. I want to
Mhm.
continue to work with people in mental health. I will be finishing up my master's in counseling in a couple of years, and I want to do research with the APA. I want to do research with psychedelics.
Mm.
I want to really help people. I want
Yeah.
people to know that my practice is a practice where they can show up authentically.
Mm.
They can be themselves. I don't want to be the blanket therapist. I don't want to be the therapist that is like a robot, right?
Sure.
I also want to be professional, have boundaries, but I want my clients to know that I'm human just like them, and that vulnerability builds connection.
Mm.
I also want to continue to make music.
Mm.
I want to continue to spread my light in that fashion because I believe that we are channelers and that when we make music or when we're creative, we are channeling a divine message through that art.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I want to start writing my own music. I used to write my own music when I was younger.
Love it.
I want to start writing my own music. I want to start putting some stuff on YouTube, maybe
Yes.
singing. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I love it.
Slowly coming out of my shell. So,
I love it. I
yeah.
love it. With those that are seeking mental health,
hmm
what is your message to those people?
I would say it's two things. Consumption is the first one.
Mhm.
If you're trying to improve your mental health, I would start here. What are you consuming? Not just with the food, but what are you consuming in general? Our food affects our brains and the way that our brains work. The type of food that we ingest can affect our dopamine and serotonin levels, which leads to anxiety and depression.
Mm.
Same with social media, same with porn, same with alcohol and cocaine. All of those things literally remove natural balances or throw off our natural balance, and it causes brain fog. The chemicals in fast food cause brain fog. You
Mm.
can't think clearly. It affects our intuition. So I would say really be mindful of consumption in
Mhm.
general.
Mhm.
And this is also for the friends that you have. Consumption in terms of the people you're hanging out with, the people who are in your life. And then the second thing would be knowing thyself.
Mm.
I believe that 90% of the issues that we have in mental health is from a lack of connection with ourselves because we are so used to being on the go, doing things with friends, drinking or using drugs to disconnect because we're in pain and we're trying to numb.
Mhm.
And so if we're able to get to know ourselves, we can figure out what our needs are, what our non-negotiables are, what it is that we want out of life, and
Mm.
we can shift from having a life that we're settling for to having a life that we are fucking love and that we're
Mm.
passionate about,
I
with
love
a
that.
partner that we love, with friends that support us,
Mm.
with activities that fuel us. So yeah, I would say those two things.
I love that. It's a
hmm
great it's a great answer there.
Thank you.
I on the subject of music, you touched on, writing your own songs, being involved with that.
Mhm.
Um, what would you ultimately want out of music?
It's very multifaceted for me because I see it going in many ways. So it's really interesting. Life tends to throw me into the spiritual and the practical a lot.
Mm.
So like I'm in the matrix, I'm out of the matrix. I have like my spiritual friends and then I have like my regular friends. And I think that there is an opportunity for me to do music in both.
Mhm.
So in ceremony with the spiritual, we sing a lot, especially when we're meditating or if we're having some cacao and we're doing a circle. So I want to
Mhm.
implement more of my voice in
Mhm.
that space. And then in the matrix, I want to be able to make music that inspires people. I want to be able to make music where they can feel the energy of love
Mm.
and they feel connected.
I love that.
Yeah. And I also think that some of the ambiance music is so like the hertz are so elevating,
Mm.
and that motivates me because I think some of the music that we listen to we don't realize, but it's actually lowering our frequency,
Mm.
whether it's through the words or just the tones that they're using.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that for sure.
hmm
Guys, we're pretty much wrapping it up here. So, Lily, if anybody wants to follow you, visit your business,
hmm
check you out online, where do they go?
So for my business, Leo Rising Integration, and it's LeoRisingIntegration Integration. And then my personal page, it's a mouthful. My personal page is Lily_Krisel on Instagram, and it's just one L. So LILY_KRISEL.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Lily, thank you so much for joining us on the Powered by Music podcast, where we talk about everything music. Guys, you can follow me at Michael D. Tidwell, or you can follow us at the China Doll Podcast, where you can check out all of our episodes online. You can check us out on YouTube and Spotify. And we got a lot of cool stuff coming at y'all. Thank y'all so much, guys. Y'all have a great day.